Joining us now, the chief spokesperson of the Republican National Committee, Kayleigh McEnany. You know her from her long stint on CNN during the Trump campaign. Kayleigh, great to have you.
Hey, John. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, Kayleigh, I had so much fun last night. I can't say that was the most fun I've ever had at a State of the Union speech. We were watching it at Trump International Hotel, and it was just a blast, and everybody was cheering and clapping. But I got to tell you, Kayleigh, I just want your perspective on this. So you're looking at these Democrats led by Leader Pelosi. She has this black dress on. She's biting her lip. She's glum. She's sad. Every time the president mentioned an economic indicator, that means jobs, money, promotions, wages, 401k up, kids moving out of the basement, something positive happens. I mean, she sits on her hands like she's rooting for misery in order to take power. Have you ever seen such a spectacle, Kayleigh, in your life?
No, I haven't. You know, I was just watching Fox. They did a montage of Nancy Pelosi looking absolutely miserable.
Oh, I got to see
Schumer
it.
With his, it's great. Chuck Schumer with his head slightly tilted down with this just scowl on his face, and then Democrats sitting when they talked about African-American unemployment being at the lowest level it's been in history, and not a single member of the Congressional Black Caucus is standing in support. It's just incredible. I mean, this is an America moment, and Democrats made it a partisan one.
How do Republicans turn the corner off this great speech? And you just heard me read the overnight polling by CBS. So CBS does a poll. This is so funny. So CBS, and I used to be on their network, right? CBS does a poll. It's their poll. And then they say, well, we have to give you the results of the poll, which is 75% of the people that saw it, which is about 50 million, loved it. But then they have a disclaimer at the end that said, but the poll sucked. I mean, have you ever seen them come out with a disclaimer on their own poll because they hate the results of their own poll?
Sadly, during my time at CNN, I saw that often in the aftermath of great Trump speeches. They often do that. But what they don't tell you is when they do their scientific polling, they always overpoll Democrats. Never a disclaimer. They always overpoll Democrats by about 8 or 9 points. And, no disclaimer there. But, of course, if it's more Republicans, which I would argue is more reflective of our electorate, then there's a disclaimer. Our poll sucks. But they all love Donald Trump's speech was the message.
I mean, I saw this, and it has made my day. It is so funny because you're right. CBS poll after poll after poll, they oversample Democrats on everything. And there's no disclaimer that says, well, we oversampled the, 8% more Democrats that are actually participate in this election or vote or whatever. But they get a result they don't want, and they have to put the disclaimer out. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Now, Kayleigh, let's talk Turkey, okay, about the midterms. And I know you're with the Republican National Committee, so you have to do the spin thing. I get that. But, you looked at these elections a month ago, and just an independent analyst like me says, I just don't see how the Republicans are going to maintain control of the House. Got all these swing district Republicans like Frelinghausen in New Jersey, Darrell Issa in California. They're all retiring. So you're losing some big incumbents with big fundraising ability. They're gone. Those seats are gone. And you look at the trend, the party that's out of presidential power, first midterms, they gain something like average of 25 seats. You look at this whole thing and you say, no way the Republicans are going to stay in control. But then you looked at the speech last night, you look at these numbers, you look at the economy just roaring ahead, and we're only at the tip of the iceberg. Is there a way Republicans can turn the corner, regain their messaging, and maintain a majority in November?
Oh, absolutely. And, you mentioned it's an uphill battle. We recognize that. You're right. The trend usually doesn't trend in the favor of the party that holds the presidency. So you're correct to say all of that. But, there are 12 House seats that, are up for grabs, of course, that Donald Trump won that are currently held by Democrats. So we look to those with optimism. And then we look to, like you said last night, where in that CBS poll you mentioned with the disclaimer, 56% said that the policies they heard last night will make their lives better. So if Republicans, in addition to tax cuts, which are about to kick in February, if in addition to that we get infrastructure, we get immigration reform, I think we're unstoppable.
Let's talk about the potential of a government shutdown coming up next week or whenever it is, February 9th, I believe. The last time the Democrats attempted this over DACA, they got annihilated, and Chuck Schumer had to basically fold his hand. What leverage do you think they have now?
Oh, they have no leverage, and they realize that. At least the Senate does. The Senate Democrats have indicated they have a willingness to keep the government open. They know that they lost that battle. I don't think they're ready to engage in it again. But House Democrats, not the same story. A lot of them, the far left, are rearing for yet another one. They don't realize they got a shellacking in the last one. They were blamed for it. Polling shows that. But I hope ultimately calmer heads prevail and we keep the government open. And, if not, Democrats are just going to lose once more. It's been a bad few weeks in January for them.
Kayleigh, fundraising, you guys have set records, but then Steve Wynn resigns. Now you got Mr. Ricketts in there. What happens now?
Well, you're right to mention our fundraising numbers. That's always good to point out because we have a 7-to-1 cash on hand advantage over the Democrats. So that's encouraging. But as you mentioned, we're optimistic about the future. We have Mr. Ricketts coming in to take that position as finance chair. This week, he'll be approved by our RNC committee men and women across the country. They have to take a vote. We expect that vote to go well. And then we expect to continue fundraising at record rates, an absolute record year last year, historic year for us, fundraising at the level we did, historic for a non-presidential year. So we expect that to continue, and it's an indication of the excitement among our base, contrary to what you hear the media saying.
Well, you can't raise that amount of money that you've been raising without people excited from all levels. So you've obviously done that, and we wish Mr. Ricketts well as your new finance chair, except we don't wish the Cubs well, of which his family owns. We hate the Cubs. We hate all baseball teams except ours, which is the Houston Astros. Everybody else we hate. So I hope he does great, but not the Cubs. Now, let's get to your chair, Ronna Romney. She came in there without a lot of the typical experience that people do when they come into this position, yet her results so far have been really exceeded everybody's expectations. Obviously, she hired you also, so she's a good decision maker when it comes to hiring. But what is different now about the RNC? What has Ronna Romney done that really stands out as
one of the
chairwoman?
things I think are her hiring decisions, and not just me, but she's hired a great team that is committed to standing behind the president, because at the RNC, it's important for people to know the party is supposed to stand lockstep with the president. When we have internal party fighting, which doesn't happen often anymore, but at the beginning of the president's term, when we were trying to consolidate our party together as one after, it was a difficult primary, it's our job to stand behind the president. And what I think Ronna has brought to the table, in addition to record-raising fundraising, as you mentioned, is a party that stands behind the president. It was not an easy task. We know that there was a rift between the establishment and the outsiders, right. And ultimately Donald Trump prevailed. And she has done a remarkable job saying every day that, our guiding philosophy is how can we help the president? And it's encouraging to see. I think she came in and drained the swamp of the party and made this party one that represents the people and the president.
I think you're spot on. That is exactly why she's having the success, in that she is 100% supportive of this president. Those of us, Kayleigh, as you know, because you were involved in TV, those of us that were with the campaign from its inception, there was a lot of tension for a long time with the RNC, with the operatives there, who was in control of it. And there was a lot of mistrust on all sides, really until the end when Kellyanne came in. So I think she's done a wonderful job in bridging that gap. And you're right. I mean, the job of the Republican National Committee right now is to support the president because he is the leader of the party, right?
That's exactly right. He's the leader of the party, and that's how it should be. And the chairwoman has come in and just unmistakably made that point. And, I was skeptical coming to D.C. What am I going to find? What's the RNC going to be like? Because you hear horror stories about the establishment, and it was so refreshing when, we hit troubled waters or the Democrats put us in a tough position that her guiding orders to me are always stand behind the president, no matter what. And that's how it should be, because the president ultimately is the leader of the party, and we're a subsidiary arm, and that's definitely her guiding philosophy. I
got a couple more minutes. Kayleigh McEnany, let's get to the special election coming up in Pittsburgh. This is a Republican district, a district that Trump won. But the race there, the Democrats have a very capable candidate. I understand that the race is tight. What have you seen?
Well, we're encouraged about that race. There's no denying that Pennsylvania was a state that was more enthusiastic about this president than any Republican before him. It's a state that we had won since the 1980s. And Pittsburgh, and that district in particular, is one of factory workers. It's one of folks that are, a lot of them, blue collar. And we're encouraged that, this is a president that we were hemorrhaging 1,000 jobs under the Obama administration, manufacturing jobs per month. He not only reversed the course, but now we are adding 16,000 manufacturing jobs per month. And that's something that's particularly important to Pennsylvania, something that we think will play well in this district. And we ultimately expect Republicans to prevail. We have a great candidate, and, we're encouraged that this race will trend in our favor, and it'll end the kind of string of troubles we've had with the Virginia race and the New Jersey race before it.
Are you going to win?
We're going to win. Yes, we are very confident of that. And, it's important to point out, folks are saying that, Republicans have had a string of defeats, but they forget that we won the first 4 special elections of last year. We won resoundingly. And, Democrats won in New Jersey. They won in Virginia. Alabama was kind of an aberrational situation. There were extenuating factors there. We don't have to go into those. But they missed that we had 4 victories before that, and we think that there's still support for the president out there that will ultimately translate into a victory in that special election.
All right, Kayleigh McEnany boldly predicting victory in this special election coming up March 13th, I believe, in Pittsburgh. Last I saw, the Republican had a slight edge. I think it was up by 3 in the last public opinion surveys that I saw. Not a lot of room for comfort, but I'd still rather be up by 3 weeks out than behind by 3. So that's good. And I know you're going to be pouring a lot of resources in there. And I want to thank Kayleigh McEnany for being with us. Kayleigh, it's always a pleasure to have you on, and I'm really thrilled that you're with the RNC.
John, thank you so much for having me.